All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Pros from Other Card Games. Rate the cards in Marvel Snap. I still haven't shortened the name. I apologize for that. I am joined by Mogwai, the Legends of Runeterra streamer. Rest in peace. The former Marvel Snap.
Jesus Christ, man. That's
the
happening.
I can't even get through the intro, man. The former Marvel Snap phenom back again in Marvel Snap. And I wanted to welcome him back by asking him to rate cards that he probably hasn't seen. So I went through and I picked out a bunch of new cards. Last time he played was a year ago. He farmed up to infinite playing bots. It's a classic story of a returning hero who's inevitably going to get dunked on by a variety of weird new things. So, Mogwai, first of all, introduce yourself to the audience. I'm sure there's a decent portion of them that already know who you are. So just accepting that, still introduce them.
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. And yeah, I'm Mogwai. I am, in fact, that guy who played Legends of Runeterra. And,
the
that
one
game
guy,
we had. Yeah. Nobody else played it. That's kind of why the game met its fate. Yeah. And yeah, I played a lot of Marvel Snap like a year ago. I actually focused my channel on it. And then I talked a lot of trash about monetization and stuff. And I think now I am actually the Tyler 1 of the Marvel Snap community. So yeah, Tyler 2. Let's go with that.
Reforged.
And yeah, I've always really enjoyed the game. It's extremely fresh, extremely unique, and yeah, it's been quite the ride. As you said, I managed to make it to Infinite like a couple of days, but it's because I faced like 90% bots. It was actually crazy. And at that point, because through my ride to Infinite, you would assume that I would have learned the meta, but I didn't, right? Because I faced these, like, I feel like almost all my matches, I don't know why bots are obsessed with hella discard decks. I felt like I faced hella, like a million, like 85% of the time it was a hella matchup. So I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I didn't actually start running into new cards until I actually made it to Infinite. And they put me like top 400. So yeah, it's
phenomenal ranking
ride.
system strikes again. I just wanted to point out two things that you might not know. The reason you played so many bots, you had your legacy MMR that was high, and almost everyone with an MMR even close to yours right now is already in Infinite. They can't match up with you. And so the whole thing is the system is trying to protect other people from having to play you, guy with an extremely high
that's
MMR.
fair. That's fair.
Like,
I am pretty dangerous in card games. Like, I understand. Like, if somebody queues into me, despair, terror enters into their system, and I get it. I get it. So thank you, Second Dinner, for protecting others.
Yeah, protecting everyone else.
Giving me a free ride to Infinite.
Yeah, protecting everyone else from Spider-Man 2099. That's what needs.
That's
a
people
key
are
design principle.
Oh my god. The arguments I've had with my chat. How dare they call it the worst card of the game? That is just fallacy.
It is at least not worse than Angel. I promise you it is not worse than Angel.
It may be now, though.
I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. I don't think, like, being a 1-2, like, at least it's a 5.
You agree that after they actually nerfed it.
I don't really think it's a difference, honestly. I think it's
I think it is, because I actually played the card a lot, and I feel like the card does have room in like a tempo deck, right? Like, not all in movement, but the cheaper the card is, the quicker you can utilize initiative to snipe down like mid game threats. Like,
and then there's less stuff on the
board. Thor and Bill and stuff, right? Like, when the board is not fully developed, you can combine it with stuff and maybe play with like Polaris to clear up the space. I thought it had potential there, but then they made it a 5-drop, and I'm like, well, okay. Well,
see, this is actually the fascinating bit about having you on, because I saw a great Twitter post that talked about how your deck building style was to commit to an idea and take it to its logical conclusion, which means
I'm stubborn as hell. Yes.
Yeah, but you're not in the business of being like, oh, this card is just bad. You're not in that business, right? And that's why I wanted to have you on, because instead of just doing like, oh, is this good, is it bad? I want you to be like, if I think this card is good, like, tell me why.
To present my case.
Yes.
To present my case.
Because I like that. You're a case guy. That's what you do. You see upside, right?
I'm just an edgy wannabe, man. I want to play what other people aren't playing, and then act like I'm cool because of it. So
Right.
That's my thing.
That is also respectable. I
Thank you.
only ever
Thank you.
climb ranks because I want to act like I'm cool because of it. I have absolutely nothing going on otherwise. Like it's very important to me. Okay.
Oh,
So
we're more similar than I thought.
yes. So all right. Let's start with card number 1.
All
And
right.
this is Alioth. On reveal, destroy all unrevealed enemy cards here. 6/2.
1 second.
Yeah.
Can I because right now I'm not seeing the screen
What the hell?
like you were sure. Oh no, this is my problem.
Oh.
I have to admit, even though my family believes I'm a tech genius
Double click
because
that.
I work
You see
with
the
the
flame,
internet,
don't you? You're seeing the fire. Double
I'm
click it.
seeing it. No. I already have it. Don't worry. I already
Okay,
have it
yeah.
on screen. I'm just going on a minor tangent here. Even though my family thinks I'm like a tech genius and this and that because I work on the internet, I'm
Mhm.
actually a boomer with all these things and Discord
Yeah.
and stuff, and I just didn't click on the thing. So, but I figured it out.
Okay.
I
Yeah, no,
did it.
that's what happened to me. I turned 30 and it's just like I don't know anything anymore. Like
I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah,
Everything's changing
it's
every
over.
year so
Yeah.
fast. Like, screw this.
Yeah.
All right, Alioth, 6 energy, 2 power. Unreveal, destroy all unrevealed enemy cards here. I look at this guy, and I'm supposed to see all this smoke and stuff, but honestly, I just see green. I see green. I see big head. I see leader 2.0, honestly. A card that is fundamentally, I believe, I don't have it, so I haven't had the
Hell
luxury of
yeah.
playing with it. But
Sure.
I believe it's a card that really capitalizes on decks that are efficient at staying ahead. Perhaps decks that sacrifice a little bit of endgame combo synergy, burst for reliable point smashing on curve, and that is able to solidify a lane by just denying everything that happens there. I personally like this because unlike what I didn't like about leader is that he could spawn like everywhere,
Yeah.
right? It's just like I add two power here in this location, and then everything else, whatever my opponent does, I copy it, and that just always felt really cheap to me. Even in situations where he perhaps was more balanced than the community thought he was, he still didn't feel good to play against. I think this card is a more a fine version of that. I don't know if this card was like super broken before and they nerfed. I have no idea, because I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But as it is, as I'm looking at it now, I think it's good. I think it's definitely meta defining. And it's definitely something that you have to consider, especially now if Ghost sees a lot of play. This could be a natural counter to it, which I like. It's important for cards to be able, that keeps the meta flowing, right? But yeah, I think this card is fantastic. Not broken though. Just a really good card.
Yeah,
That's
fantastic,
my
not broken is pretty much where I'd peg it. Like, not even necessarily fantastic, not broken, just good card, not
a
broken
good card.
anymore. It
Good
is
card.
the fair version of leader. It
Oh,
also
you said anymore. So it was stronger before.
Oh God, we're about to get into that. Don't worry. So
Okay,
this
okay.
card was definitely released with the intention of being fair leader. Like they identified the same thing wrong with leader that you did, which is
Uh-huh.
it hits all the lanes. So they were like, okay,
Mm.
what if it only hits one lane? All right.
Yeah.
So they released it as a 6/5 that just there wasn't like the text. You see, it says destroy all unrevealed cards here. What it said was all enemy cards played here this turn.
Oh my. Wait.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't
didn't
even just a
matter. It
priority
didn't
card.
even matter if he had initiative, and it was
Yes.
5 power.
Yes. So
Oh Jesus. Oh,
that's how it
my God.
released.
I would have run. Oh my God. I would have run so many tweets. Oh dear
Yeah, I
God.
mean, to be fair, that is sort of like your job. But yes, you would have written a lot of tweets about this card. This would have been your punching bag of the
Oh,
month.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Well,
it definitely got nerfed.
I'm glad I wasn't there.
No. I mean,
Oh my
it was a
God.
harrowing time. The funniest part about that Alioth though is there was
Uh,
another deck that was better than any deck playing Alioth, and so it was like this was the thing people hated, but it was still like second best even when it was super broken, which I find like a very funny dynamic because at least leader had the
okay.
decency to be in the best deck. Like,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
was just like, my God, I hate playing against him. Also,
Oh.
he's not in the best deck, but he's still present enough that you just hate
So
it.
they may use that to justify him being okay. Oh God, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you probably could have made a numbers argument that the old Alioths were okay. and that's a bit horrifying.
But I'm happy that
Yes.
that didn't happen. Sometimes you just gotta burn the books, man, and just don't let people debate it. Just let this thing go.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's really fine as it is here. It's definitely good. Like I've lost to it. I haven't honestly. I haven't played against it much. I think I may have run into it like 3 or 4 times max, which is kind of. But I just don't see it that often, personally. But it's not like I've been playing for less than a week, so yeah.
Yeah. This
But,
is not, but like that is accurate though. Like it's good because if you did see it that often, it would be the most annoying card in the game, and we know that from when we did, and it was the most annoying card in the game.
Absolutely. No. I am very happy that this is a card that some people may opt to go for specifically, but and again, maybe we see more of it if like Ghost becomes a thing.
Martyr 1/5. At the end of the game, move to a location that loses you the game if possible. Reverse Captain Marvel, but she's a 1/5.
Okay, I have a question. Why would you ever play this over Titania?
Great question.
It's not even an ongoing effect that you can like potentially combine with like Enchantress and Sarah or something. This is awful. Actually awful.
Correct. Yes. No, I figured this was my best chance. I put this in all these videos. I have never once successfully tricked someone into saying this card is good.
You could have bamboozled me.
I put this
is
card
so
in
bad.
Every video on the off chance someone is like, well, there's no way they'd print a card with that text.
The thing is, I personally like one of my favorite like archetypes that I don't even know if it was an archetype. I just like playing it. I like playing a lot of decks with like a 5/1 end game, so decks with like Miles Morales and a bunch of like key 1-drops, right? That can play alongside stuff like Old Arrow, even stuff like Gamora potentially. I like that approach, maybe with like Daredevil and stuff like these hybrid movement decks, right? Like Freddy Babes really popularized them back in the day, and so I actually have a lot of experience compared to other aspects of the game. I'm actually quite experienced in like 1-drops in the late game, like these high powered 1-drops, right? So as soon as I saw this, I was like, why would I ever like Titania? Like, why would I play this with Titania, right? So terrible.
No, that is
burn
the
it.
Follow up.
Delete it from the collection.
No, hold up. Follow up.
Okay.
What power would it need to have for you to play it?
No, don't put me on the spot like this.
Just ballpark. I've gotten answers that range anywhere from 6 to 30. Like you can't be more off than that. Okay, like you're gonna.
Honestly, I believe this at 7 power could be legit.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like it just feels like
I always like when I'm looking through the 1-drops and on deck building and I see that Ebony Maw and I'm like, God damn it, why can't I play you late?
Yeah. Like if this were an alt Ebony Maw, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think it would still potentially be balanced. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say because it's just such a crippling effect, right? That you need to incorporate this in a deck that can essentially fill other locations, right? Like that's the way to bypass it.
You can also zero it, but
true. That's the more unga bunga solution, but sure.
Yeah. I mean, it works. Speaking of unga bunga, we have Gladiator here. He's a 3/8. On reveal, he adds a card from your opponent's deck to the location that you played him on. But if it has more power than him, it just stays there. If it has less power, it dies.
So this is interesting because I have ran into this card several times. If I were to evaluate this card without having like faced it, I perhaps would have rated it a little bit lower than I would rate it now. Just because I would be really concerned about like all the on reveal effects that you could trigger.
Yeah.
All the things that could happen. Obviously, if the metagame is greedier, this card should not be good, technically. I feel like if this card runs into a Lockjaw deck, then it's going to have a rough time, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, the times that I've ran into this card, it's just felt really reliable. It's just felt like, in a way, it's felt like the new Maximus to me.
Yeah.
It's very high tempo. It's honestly, it's a card I wish I had. Is it Series 4 or Series 5?
I've got bad news for you, buddy. We're running up into card
Oh,
acquisition here. Yeah, no, this is Series 5 card.
no.
Sorry,
God,
man.
no.
Sorry,
Oh,
man.
okay. Okay. Well, okay. 2025.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play
it's
some
over.
Gladiator,
It's
baby. It's
over
gonna
for
be
everybody in
amazing. It's done.
2025.
It's done. I'm gonna out tempo everybody. But yeah, I think it's a legit. If I were to rate it like 1 out of 10, this card,
Mhm.
um, honestly, I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, I wonder where you got that number from.
Yeah, I think maybe my subconscious tricked me
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
that's crazy. No,
I
this
think I'm being clever here,
this is a
and
really
I'm
good card.
just
That's a
parrying
really,
that. Yeah,
really,
but
really
it's
good card.
mhm,
A lot of it is because like one of the things in Marvel Snap, the dynamics that have become clear to me recently that weren't clear to me probably like the last time you were playing was 4 drops are just like way bigger than 3 drops. Like way, way, way
yeah,
bigger than 3 drops. Like the
mhm,
average 4 drop being played in a game of Marvel Snap is gonna have like 12 power or something like that. And the
uh,
average 3 drop is gonna be pretty tiny, except if it's this guy. Because if this guy is the 3 drop you're playing, he is the only one of them that is like even reasonably close
I
to
mean,
being
if
powerful.
if he gets something that doesn't really like, if he picks something out of your deck, like let's say he picks up like a Zabu or something, right? Like
Yeah.
something that has like no effect whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
right? He is effectively a 3 energy like Crossbones that doesn't
Yes.
have that requirement, right? And
Yes.
I just bring out my boy Crossbones because I do think that card is underrated. I like playing tempo decks with Daredevil, and I think Crossbones is pretty good there with Mr. Fantastic. I'm going a weird tangent there, but I again I would have rated this card lower
What would you have given it
if
if you
I
hadn't played it? If it hadn't beaten your ass,
I
basically.
would have I would have thought it was a bit too risky.
Yeah.
Because I respect unrevealabilities, and I thought some weird shit could happen, and
Mhm.
also I've been a part of like the Thanos lockjaw meta, and
Yeah.
decks were really greedy back then, so I feel I'm gonna play this and I pull out Doctor Doom,
You want to know something super messed up? We had a Thanos lockjaw meta just before you came back to the game, and this
Okay,
guy was still like the best 3 drop.
really?
Yes,
Wow.
like it was extremely messed up. Where it was like this is the exact meta that he should be completely
Sometimes
ass
theory
in.
and practice don't align.
He's yeah. Sometimes it's just a 3/8, and it's like
Yeah.
oh yeah. Like I mean, there's still a bunch of stones in there. There's a lockjaw. There's like a Mobius or whatever in these decks. There's like a Psylocke. Like you're probably favored to not hit something big. Now
Yeah,
against the traditional lockjaw deck, you are screwed because
you are
that deck
screwed.
is
Yeah.
just like all things that are bigger
Yeah,
than it.
get
But like
greedy.
with the
Yeah, no.
stones,
Yeah, I mentioned Lockjaw, like Thanos Lockjaw, but in reality, I should be focusing more on because in arguably against Thanos, this card is the vast majority of the time is gonna hit a stone or some shit. Like it's not gonna hit something like big,
yeah,
because that deck is so dense.
yeah.
Uh, so it makes sense that this card was actually like good then, even though there's always I'm not gonna be that guy that's gonna be like, well, for me, I'm always gonna pull out their
No, I mean, yeah,
their
it's not.
She-Hulk or
It
whatever.
wasn't the ideal meta for it, but it
Yeah,
was like it was a testament to just how much
it's just a
bigger
good card.
three
It's a
eight
good card.
is compared to every
Mm,
other three. That even in
exactly.
like the
Yeah.
worst meta
Every
that's
other three
possible
drop, like it's just like 5 power or something,
or
So it's just
less,
or
like
less. Yeah.
it's a lot
Uh,
less. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. All right.
Speaking of
Gee,
other 3 drops,
I have not faced this. I have
yeah,
not faced this.
I went and looked for cards because I was like, all right, there's gonna be some cards that you're gonna be familiar with just from like having been on ladder for a day,
Uh,
but this is probably one of the ones that you're not. Jean
okay.
Grey, 3/3.
Jean Grey.
Players must play
Ongoing.
their
Players
first
must
card
play their
here.
first card here each turn, if possible. Players
Correct.
must play their first card here each turn, if possible. 3 mana ongoing. Wow, this is a really powerful effect. But okay, so obviously, like power wise, weak, right? Rhino levels here.
Mhm.
Um, but an ongoing effect that forces your opponent to always play the first card there. Like, there's a lot of decks that obviously, like Thanos doesn't care about this, but there's a lot of decks that this could really shut down. Oh my god, yeah, this one is hard. This one is hard for me because it seems like it's such a menacing effect. How have I not run into this card? Players must play their first card here each turn. It's turn 3. So if they're slamming something and you're slamming this, but for example, like doesn't this do so well against? Shouldn't this do well against destroy if timed properly?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
It is a card that I am continually very surprised by being very good into destroy, because destroy usually is like, I'm gonna follow the X-23 around. You lose the ability to
Yeah.
do that. You
Yeah.
do run into some issues once the destroy deck gets on, like once it really starts going downhill, and they can just be like, okay, well, I'll just play Deadpool Venom in your Jean Grey lane. I don't really care. But this can definitely disrupt destroy in a real way.
I'm like the more I'm thinking about it, because I'm also thinking about other disruption tools, right? Like, and obviously, like we would be talking about different decks in which these would fit, but right now my mind is comparing this to something like Cosmo, right? Cosmo is 3 power and definitely feels like a extremely reliable disruption tool for decks that are able to stay ahead. And even though Cosmo is 3 power, like it is worth the low stat because it's an effect it's really strong and encompassing an entire location and shutting it down. This kind of like is extremely matchup dependent. There are quite a few decks that are not really going to care about this, and the power output is very low. Like 3 power is low, so I actually think this card is it really gave me a strong first impression. But the more I think about it, I think this card may end up being underwhelming. Like like
That
a
is
like a
correct.
like a
You
6.
Yeah, no, like, oh, I would say less than a 6.
Less
Like
than
that
6?
that is
Okay.
like this, you correctly identify that, like there are going to be some decks where it's like, holy crap, this is amazing.
Mm,
The issue is there are probably far more decks where you are playing a 3/3, and
mhm.
I don't know if this is a thing that people out there really grasp, but you cannot afford to play a 3/3 in the vast majority of cases. Like it is very hard to do. You name checked
Marvel Snap
Cosmo,
is a game
right?
about points. You need
Yes.
points.
Like you name
And
checked Cosmo, and I would say even Cosmo has been a little bit power crept by just like the
uh,
ability to answer this stuff on the back end with Shang-Chi and Enchantress type
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
no,
but
I
like Cosmo is a good comp, because when
mm,
Cosmo is good, it's because he's not just a 3/3, it's because he turned off like, 20 power worth of crap. And Jean Grey
exactly.
is not doing that. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
that's her issue. Is that like Cosmo,
She
maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad, but when it's good, it's gonna be
I
absurd.
really like this design though. I really like it. Maybe they could ump to 4 power, start there and see how that goes, you know? Like
I
I
think
really I really like the design. I like disruption, but it's true that if it's also like if this card ever was like super meta,
mhm,
it would be pretty toxic.
it would be really not fun, yes. But one of the things
Yeah.
that I kicked around was like, what if it just said your opponent has to play their first card here each turn?
Mm.
Is that better? Like, do we think that's playable?
I think so.
Because like it's still a
Like
3/3,
like
but it's
for
like all upside for you.
you're forcing your opponent
Yeah,
to play into that, and you can the thing is like you can navigate around the limitations with by lowering the curve, so you're able to chain plays, right? But at the same time, that also limits the amount of decks that this card can go
correct.
in. So if you take that away, that is actually a bit of a scary change because again, the moment this card becomes relevant, oh my god, it kind of like auto wins some matchups potentially.
Yeah.
If you have like a very rigid curve, then but I guess everybody would start playing Vision, but which honestly, like
It's a good
I'm a
card.
little bit shocked that I don't think he needed to be buffed. I think 7 power was perfect for him personally, but whatever.
Oh no, 8 power vision
Uh,
I think is way better. Like it like 7
I mean,
power.
oh,
Go
well, I
ahead.
mean, obviously it's way better, but you mean like healthier for the game?
Yeah, I do. Cuz
Okay,
I
okay,
like,
yeah,
unless you're one of those people, and there are people who think that the existence of vision turns turn 6 into more of a guessing game than it could be, and I respect that opinion. It's a valid one. I totally get it. And if you wanted him to not exist as much, yes, taking him down to 7 would make perfect sense. But assuming you want that kind of dynamic to be in the game, Yeah, I think he probably has to be 8. Like, I think I probably would play him
Yeah.
a lot less at 7.
I can see, and like you said, I'm referring to Vision like 1 year ago, right? 1 year
Yeah.
has passed. A bunch of cards have been released, and obviously power creep is inevitable
Yep.
in any card game. Like people think that you can make a card game without power creep. That just shows that you have no idea about card game design, because power creep is inevitable. So yeah, if it's happened just a little bit, then then I get it. I can understand that. Like, it's not like I've faced Vision and I feel like, oh, he's just too good. It's just that he felt pretty good to me at 7 power. But again, time has passed.
What I like
So
about Vision a lot is that you play him and he's just a solid 5-drop that can't get Shang-Chi'd and can win you the game.
mhm,
And like
yeah.
there are not a lot of those. Like there are like
Mhm,
a lot of 5s are either like they're so big like Devil Dinosaur just getting Shang-Chi'd all the time, or they're like the Vision type, like a utility 5 that can't get shanked. And Vision is my favorite of those utility 5s that can't get shanked.
yeah. No, he's great, and it's like it feels like he's a 5-drop that can fit actually a lot of decks.
Yeah.
And naturally, whenever I go for like a storm build,
Yeah.
Vision is obviously a very high candidate for that list. Oh, I've faced this guy,
You face this guy?
Mobius. Yeah, 3 energy, 3 power. Your cost can't be increased. Your opponent's cost can't be reduced. Now, even though I faced it a lot, I consider this. I mean, it is essentially a tech card, right? It allows it it protects like your own stuff, but more importantly, like this thing shuts down Sarah.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing that I see from this. It's a 3 energy, 3 power though. It's low power. Okay, so I personally run into this card a lot, but I believe that as of now, it's a little bit overplayed.
Okay.
That's my take on it. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I'm
Right.
not saying it shouldn't be played. I just feel like I run into this more often than I should. I think there are actually better options. Obviously, like I think this card is more meta dependent. It really depends on if there's a lot of Sarah or Zabu on the ladder, right? Like this is a proactive play that you can develop to shut down those sorts of things. But the thing is, like again, 3 power as a proactive play, like we mentioned, is very underwhelming most of the
Yeah.
time. So I'm actually not the biggest fan of this card. I think if it was like uh if I think if it was lower, a little bit lower, it would actually be scary as hell.
So let me tell you a
Like,
story, buddy. Guess what this card released as?
wait. No, yeah. Chat actually told me this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is a
this is the
2/3.
guy. This is the guy. This is the guy that
2/3.
was 2 mana. A 2 mana
Yes.
3. And
Yes.
like they didn't even change his power.
Yeah,
This is the guy,
yeah,
right?
it was just the 2/3.
Jesus Christ. No, that's an auto include.
Yeah.
As a 2-drop, this guy's a fucking auto include.
Yeah, he was
like what
everywhere.
the hell? He was 3 power?
Yeah, he was a
Like he was
2/3.
like legit 3 power?
Yeah, 2/3, the most everywhere
Oh
card of all time.
my God.
It was so sick.
Oh my God. Okay.
I have a lot of cards on here that have been balance changed, and I put them
Okay.
on here so I could be like, hey, what would it be if this card was this? So yeah, this is one of those ones that I
you
put on here just to
cheeky.
be like,
Okay.
okay, yeah. So this card, yeah, 3/3 correct analysis, 2/3 yes, most busted card in the game, but completely ridiculous.
Oh
completely
my
absurd.
God. How long was he like that?
Oh, dude, like a month, maybe less.
Oh,
They figured it out really fast. They were like, "Oh man, this did not do what we wanted it to do." They got
Jesus
rid of it.
Christ.
But
Like that sounds like that's just crazy. Like
Yeah.
he must have been like literally every deck
Pretty much.
that had him. People
Pretty
that had
much,
the
yeah.
card.
I mean, that was also a metagame that was very focused around specific cards that discounted costs. And so this guy at 2/3, the idea was he'd beat those decks, and what actually happened is he was mirror tech in those decks, and since those decks are everywhere, he was just everywhere.
Not the first time that's happened. Not the first, like in fact it's happened so often that they create a card to counter like a specific, and then it actually fits that deck really well.
Yes, like him at 2 was just like a great fit in those decks.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, well, very interesting. Now no one else can even come close because we're playing this now. So you're done. We have everything.
That's a sick variant though. I'm a big Dan Hip fan.
I am a huge Dan Hip.
I love Dan Hip.
Big.
I have Spider-Man 2099 Dan Hip.
Nice. I don't have Spider-Man 2099 Dan Hip. I'm not even sure I have any Spider-Man 2099 boosters. I don't think I played that card.
You're a meta enthusiast.
Yes,
dude, you like to play.
Not only am I a meta enthusiast, I'm probably like the guy who enforces it the most. Like I do like a tier list every Sunday. So like you'll see stuff and it's like, where'd that come from? It came from the tier list. It's like I am not only a meta, I am the meta. All right.
Oh, you're the meta.
Now there are people who have much bigger tier lists than me. I tend to do a lot of like collation.
You are my natural enemy in card games.
Yes, I like when you keep running into people who are like, why are they all playing the same deck? Why are they all playing this stupid like Shang-Chi Enchantress Zabu deck? Usually, I am a part of that. Yes.
All right. Well, I thought I liked you, but it's good to know.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can't keep that hidden. You know, that's who I am.
It's true,
you can't ask me to hide who I am. Like this is important to me.
True. I could say I respect that.
You don't.
But I'm gonna leave it there.
Our boy Loki, who you may have seen, but honestly, I'm not sure.
I've seen this guy like once.
Okay.
I've ran into him once.
On reveal, transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting hand. Give them minus.
But I must inform that unlike Mobius, I actually do know this card used to be a 3-drop.
Okay, right? Good. Do you know the other nerf they gave him?
I do. No.
All right, we'll get to that in a sec. Right. We'll get to that in a sec. How good is he now?
Okay, so 4 energy, 5 power. On reveal, transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck and giving them -1 cost. I mean, naturally, like having a card like this go from turn 3 to turn 4 is a tremendous nerf, because you're losing out on 1 turn of being able to play effectively your opponent's deck, but better, right? Cheaper. 5 power for 4 energy, in my opinion, is just not it. It's not it, Chief. I think Enchantress can get away with it because she's so vital in some matchups, and I think there's quite a few like ongoing threats. I'm not just talking about like ongoing dedicated decks, but there's quite a few like relevant ongoing cards that are very, very key, like that annoying ass 3-drop that's like all white. She's that she protects like 1-drops and 6-drops and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of stuff that Kaera. Oh my god, I hate her. She I'm referencing Enchantress because Enchantress is one of those things. First of all, I'm so glad they brought her back to 5 power, because I believe when I stopped playing, she was actually at 4. She got nerfed or something, and she just felt so bad. At 5 is that threshold for 4 energy. That's like, it's like, okay, if this thing is doing other stuff for you regularly, you could justify this. For Loki, I feel like you are essentially giving up power on turn 4, very key turn in Marvel Snap. And then you have 2 turns in which you can start playing your opponent's cards. I think that's too late. I think this card is not very good right now. I don't think it's unplayable per se. I have no interest in it personally because I like building my own decks. Like I don't like having a card that's like, oh, here you go, Weird World the card. Like, yes. No, thank you. But I'm gonna say that this thing being a 3 mana, completely different story. I wasn't there. I haven't really discussed this with people, but I don't think. I think if you play this game, like it's easy to see how that's terrifying, because if this card goes down on turn 3 having that one extra turn to start playing your opponent's cards one energy cheaper allows you to chain more and really smoothes out the curve regardless of what you're facing. Like the odds are it's just gonna play out better. And I don't know if its power was at 5, but if it was if on oh my god. Yeah, this card was broken then.
So
Fundamentally broken.
here's
Like,
some fun facts about Loki. This card was broken at 3-5, yes. But this card was also broken at 4-5. And what ended up making it not broken, finally, was they changed it from copy to transform, specifically wording it so that it would not work with the collector anymore. That's what did it. That's what did it. This used to be a card that would just like, oh, your collector is 9 power now. Like you'd play it and it would just be like, oh, your
okay.
collector's the biggest guy of all time.
I still think this card is broken without the collector existing at 3 energy though,
It
right?
might be. I think it's like everyone's gonna get mad at me if I say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think it would be safe to try it at 3 at this point because it is at 4 with this. It is proven to be.
It's just one of those things though. I'm biased because I don't want this card to be good.
Right? No, like that's the thing you have to consider. I think it would be safe to try it. Is that a good idea for the metagame? Like, do you want that to be around?
I think this card should be a fun card. Not a meta rep
Yeah.
because oh my god, it's just it has to feel so frustrating to run into somebody, they play this and they start playing your deck but cheaper. It's just not a good feeling.
3 months. This card was the meta for 3 months. You legitimately, when I say you came back at the right time, I mean that. Like you missed this card being the best card in the game for 3 months, followed by a Thanos Lockjaw meta for like 3 or 4 weeks. And you came back right as they fixed that, and it is now all good again. You came back at like the exact right time, but you missed Loki Winter.
That sounds like a cold winter.
It was as someone who was pretty good at Loki mirrors, it wasn't as bad for me as it was for like other people, but I get why it sucked for basically everyone else. I totally understand that.
Yeah,
and after a while, it just got like I really would like to.
You may be a meta slave, but you have an ounce of empathy. Okay, that's
the empathy I really have is like there were decks that I wanted to play because I would go into a game knowing what I wanted to do. And with Loki, you never got to go into a game knowing what you wanted to do because you had to figure out if this was a matchup you wanted to play Loki in or if this was a matchup you wanted to do the other stuff in. And it was just like, it was an experience that after I'd done it for like a month, because like
it got old.
Yeah, it was just like, really old. I really would like to play a deck that I just know what I'm gonna do every game.
Exactly.
And I can like make my game plan and feel things
because you already have that sense of novelty and chaos to adapt to with the location system. You don't need more.
Yeah.
Like that's the beautiful thing about Marvel Snap, in my opinion. That's what makes it a great game, is that you can take the same deck and just grind the hell out of it. Just play the same, and you don't get burnt out as fast as you would in other games because every game is different with the locations, right?
Yep.
And that's the chaos that you should be adapted to. Like, I don't think a card making, like, I just feel like this card just is unnecessary personally. But I'm also against these kind of cards personally. Like, I am biased against them, but I hate it. I hate Loki. I hate him. I hate his smug face. Like, I want to slap him. Like, get him out of here.
That's President Loki to you, sir. Ravonna Renslayer. Ongoing, your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less.
I faced this. At first, I it's not that I thought lowly of this card. It's just that I didn't put much thought into it at all, right? It's just like, okay, they played this. Okay, well, it's one of those things like you see this card and you just kind of like, you're kind of lazy and you don't really think about, okay, what's this thing's utility?
Yeah.
And then they played Darkhawk for 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get the point. Darkhawk, even like stuff like Iron Man as well. There's the fact that this card can potentially synergize with Zabu and hit some of the same targets is really nice. And overall, I think this is a solid card. I don't think it's like the greatest card ever, but it is definitely a solid card in specific decks. Decks that also like play stuff like Mystique maybe. I feel like it if you have this card, you definitely add it onto those decks. Is what I would say. So I would personally give it like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. I think
I feel
it's
like
it's
that's just way too high. Like
okay.
that's about what you
Okay.
put Gladiator at. And it's like it's significantly lower
Okay.
than that because like
Okay.
Ravonna has a lot more limitations than something like
Hmm.
Zabu does. Ravonna is only ever run in those specific decks, and those specific like Iron Man, Mystique, Darkhawk decks, they're cool, but they have a sort of fundamental lack of ability to run enough tech cards to like
Yeah,
actually beat things that can go over the top of them because they're so
that makes
invested in
sense.
their proactive game plan with the Mystique and the Iron Man and the Darkhawk and the Black Widow and the Rock Slide and all that stuff. Like it takes up a lot of space, and so they
Hmm.
often end up looking like disruption and points, but no, Enchantress or Shang-Chi or Shadow King and so if someone does something that goes bigger, they just die. They just like they're a points deck, and that's kind of it. Where Ravona's actually at its best
I
is
do
Living
feel like
Tribunal, I think.
Iron Man and Darkhawk are two
They're
examples
very
of
good.
proactive cards that could potentially outmuscle a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know about Destroy, but Iron Man enables a lot of that. Like I don't know. I mean, to me, like being able to play Iron Man on turn 4 seems like a big deal. But I agree with you. Like this card is like more niche and definitely more limited in that sense. And I mean, what you're saying about the tech cards absolutely makes a lot of sense. Like one of the things that I remember like the first day that I streamed Marvel Snap on my return, like Dara was in my chat, and I think literally the first thing that he asked me was, "Do you have Shadow King?
Yeah. Like it's
You are going to want to have Shadow King."
it's
So
one of those things where
yeah.
there's only room for one deck that just does points in the metagame at any time, and it is the deck that does
Mm.
points the best.
The
Because if
most, yeah,
you
yeah.
are playing the deck that does points the second
Mm.
best, you lose to the deck that does points the best,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
can't adapt. Like there's only room for one of those, and so far,
Mm.
Ravonna has only ever been part of that deck when it was Living Tribunal. There was like a week where Living Tribunal was really good,
Okay.
but outside
Yeah,
of
Lynn
that,
Tribunal with Iron Man. Okay, yeah.
yeah. But outside of that, it was like
Uh,
Ravonna decks with like Iron Man Darkhawk stuff have never been the best point decks and haven't had as much flexibility as other sort of mid-range decks to adapt to the best point decks. And so they end up in this sort of like playable, but I wouldn't recommend them space where it's like that's a deck, but probably not a good one.
okay. Okay. So what you're telling me is don't spend 3,000 collected tokens on Ravonna
You can do better.
because I had her in my shop.
You can do better. You can definitely
Okay.
do better.
I'm sorry, Ravonna. All right. Okay.
We've got the Blob here.
Ugh,
You had to have seen this guy, right? Like
yes.
you have seen
Yes.
this guy. Okay, so we'll
I have
keep it
been.
short here. You've seen this guy. You know what
I
he
know.
does.
Mm,
Good, bad, thumbs up, thumbs down.
very good.
Okay, this is the
Very,
part. This
very
is the
good.
part. This is why I put him on here because yes, he is very good. Would you care to take a guess at what he was before he was nerfed?
I am like old school, so when I saw people mentioning like the Blob being meta, I was like, what? Because when I remember this card being like, you know, data mined or whatever, it was like a 3 energy, 4 power, and it just had the last text, the last line.
Yeah, the flavor text.
Ongoing can't be moved. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
that is so disappointing. I really hope they don't release this is garbage. It's not even interesting. I like the flavor of it can't be moved. I really like that, but it needs to have more going on. I think I consider the Blob quite a pivotal character. Like I was really into when I was younger. I really enjoyed the teenage X-Men cartoon.
sure.
I don't know if you saw it. And the Blob was like always a compelling character to me because to me he always felt like this guy is actually low key really fucking strong and hard to beat, right? Because he has this armor of fat, right? And
Yeah,
it's just like and he's actually a legit threat. So I like the character a lot, right? And it's one of those characters that seems kind of like a side villain, but it's actually a one hell of a menace. So I wanted to, I like the fact that they made him a big bad like 6 drop, right? Like like that has a lot of points. I think merging from your deck until it gains 15 or more power, right? That's designed to give it a cap, right? which is neat. This thing arguably hits between 16 and 20 power on my watch when I run into it, which is pretty crazy. But I also have to say that I've only really seen this card in Thanos decks.
Correct.
Because I don't believe other decks can actually afford to do this, because they just have what's the standard end game, 3 cards left in your deck, something like that.
3, yeah.
4, yeah, 3. Okay, so I like that. It's also he's not he's pretty much he's a Thanos card, right? And I think he definitely thrives there. Now here's the thing: you're saying something about your tone makes me believe that this card used to be stronger. And also, I believe that's the case, because you've mentioned, I'm going to go on a limb here. You've mentioned that we have just made it out of a Thanos Lockjaw meta. And I'm like, I was thinking for a while, what has changed in Thanos Lockjaw since my absence? Well, there was no Blob before.
Yes.
So whatever the Blob was before, it must have been able to cap higher.
Yeah, what would you?
So maybe the limitation was lower, higher, or
yeah, ballpark it for me. What would you say? What would you say it was?
Merge cards from your deck into this until it gets 15. 15 is already so high. Why would you put anything higher as a number? That's just kind of crazy, right? Why would you put 20 or 25? That's just kind of insane.
Yeah, you're on the right track here. There wasn't a cap.
Oh! Wait! You just swallow your entire deck?
Yeah, yes, there was no cap. It was just a 650.
Oh my god! That is horrible. Oh my! Oh! Shadow King stonks must have been all over the place.
No, dude, they weren't. They are now.
Wait, what?
Are you ready for it? Because he was also a 6-4. So Shadow King wouldn't even beat him.
He was a 6-4?
Yeah, he was a 6-4 that 8-year-old deck.
I'm trying to be I'm trying to be reformed, on my return to Marvel Snap,
right,
be
how's
respectful towards the developers and stuff. Do they play their game 6-4? No limit?
It's
this is the reason why this is 100% the reason why that deck was the thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Jesus
it still
Christ.
is, though, to be fair. The way I look at Blob is it's it was
still
clearly
really good.
balanced.
That's
it was
right,
but it was
even at this point, it's amazing.
It was balanced outside of Thanos, right? Because outside of Thanos, it's how do we make this card compelling? You don't play it outside of Thanos with the 15 limitation, right? And so it's just how do we make it so this card gets to be big with only 3 in it, right? How do we do that? And the answer is how do we make this a lockjaw card, just a normal lockjaw card? And they were just all right, we'll take the cap. There won't be a cap on it. We'll just let it do that, right? And so now there is a cap. It's a 6-0. You can Shadow King it. It's much more balanced, right? But also, this was keep in mind, this was at the end of Loki Winter, where there were 4 or 5 really big balance outliers. And so this was just the one that lasted the longest. This was the last of the major balance outliers of the time to come out. And so I can believe
hilarious.
that
there was
in the
a
context it
meta.
was tested. In the context it was tested, I can totally believe that it wasn't even the best thing to be doing.
Because of other cards,
right?
Yeah,
and by the time it came out, they had been nerfed, and so it's suddenly having a 650 is actually horrible.
That's also speaks volumes about it's undeniable the impact that Thanos has had over Marvel Snap.
Yeah,
Thanos decks, because the reality is Thanos decks are inherently extremely different from every other deck in Marvel Snap. And when you decide to make a design, when you make a design decision like that, it has consequences, and this is one of those consequences. You're gonna end up with cards that, because that deck exists, you really need to tone them down, and you leave them fundamentally tied to that deck.
Yes.
Until something new that's similar comes along, right? Which can always happen in the future. But I do feel sometimes, they want cards to be more flexible, but that's just not possible with certain designs. So
I
that's
think Thanos is
interesting.
great.
The fact that how long was this thing like this though?
Oh, probably like a month. Like
Okay.
I would say it was like a month.
Okay.
Like it wasn't like
Okay.
the
If it's a
world's longest
month,
time. It was just
no,
like it was a
because
month.
when you mentioned like the 3 month Loki thing, like Jesus, like I'm
That
just
is an
like
outlier.
terrified.
Like that, like the
Okay.
Loki stuff
Okay.
is a
That's good.
significant
That's good. That's
outlier.
good.
The reason Loki was such a weird thing for them to balance was it was absolutely unbeatable when good players played it and pretty mediocre when other players
Mm,
played it. And so like you'd look at the numbers on it and be like, well, this deck isn't even really good. And then it would just be like the only thing anyone into the top 100 was playing. And it was just like it was so far and away better
Loki
than the
mirrors.
competition when good players were playing it.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot harder
That
for them to
sounds like
balance.
hell.
It was a lot harder for them to balance because it's like
That sounds
how
like
do
I mean,
how do
obviously
you do
it's
that?
rewarding. Like I
Yeah.
understand. Like I am, even though I'm the hipster, right? I want to be edgy and all that stuff.
Sure.
I want to play underplayed stuff, and I want to be able to beat meta decks and stuff. Like it's important for good decks to be a thing, right? And good decks that are rewarding for skilled players. Like I am an advocate of that. Like I don't hate a deck just because it's popular in that sense. But you have to, you can't end up with a meta where everybody's just playing the same thing. It's just a bunch of mirrors. Like that's just hell.
It was
Like
not well,
absolute
it
hell.
was okay. Like they're pretty dynamic mirrors, Loki mirrors. Towards the end there, they got pretty dynamic. But there was
Uh,
a while where it was just like, okay, who Loki'd and got their opponent's Loki.
yeah.
That's the whole game. There
Mm.
was a while where it was very
Jesus
not fun.
Christ, Jesus. Yeah, no,
There
no.
was a while where it was very not fun.
But hey, it's in the past. Like I said, when I arrived, the meta
No,
feels
they like
really, really, really neat.
good Marvel Snap metas are really good. Like
Yeah.
they are really good. And you got here at like basically the time when we had our first really good Marvel Snap meta in a while, I would say.
I know this card.
Okay.
I actually bought this card
I
when it
felt
came
this
out.
would be a U card. That's why I put it on here. I was like, how do you feel?
I like it. I think it's it's definitely obviously like you play this with Ronin,
Yeah.
right? And it can incorporate some disruption. I don't think this is a card that you run like it's definitely not spread out
No.
across the meta
No.
by any means. It's a very 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 niche card, but I do believe I've seen I even saw like Dara played this to a lot of success during like a specific tournament where he played it with like in like a Darkhawk deck
He's a master
with
mold
Ronin.
psycho, yeah. He
Yeah,
is more dedicated to this card than anybody.
oh that's cool. I think it's a very very neat design. And it can be extremely annoying in certain matchups, but it's obviously like, I'm not saying it's like top tier or anything, but it's most certainly playable is my
It's
message.
weirdly good against Thanos. Like
Yeah.
it's like weirdly very compelling against Thanos. It's weirdly very compelling against bounce decks. Like decks
Mm,
that run up against the hand size limit a decent amount of the time will actually lose to
yes.
this guy. And like, but it's just that like it's not weirdly compelling in enough matchups. And in like
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
every other matchup, your opponent is like, oh sweet, thanks. Like I
Yeah,
would love to
exactly.
have
Yeah,
these.
absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because you have to take into account that I mean, obviously power creep has happened, and I've seen like now that 2/2 drops, like the
Yeah.
balance has been breaking a little bit. But back in my day, Sentinel was a pretty good card.
It still kind of is a pretty good card. It's a little
Yeah.
sub playable right now, but it's like not by much. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
getting it for free, you're just like, yeah, hell yeah, I'd love it.
yeah, absolutely. Silver
Silver
Samurai.
Samurai.
I've ran into this guy.
Yeah.
A lot of it through bots because they love discard decks. So that didn't really teach me that much. Each player discards the lowest power card from their hand. I really like it. I think in the right deck, this card like discarding like being able to do what Black Bolt does one turn earlier. And a lot of times, obviously, this card is very tied to specific decks where you benefit from discarding your own stuff, right? But having that said, like 5 power, we've talked about this, not great for a forecast, but considering like in a lot of matchups at that stage of the game, discarding their lowest cost card on turn 4, I think actually has a lot of implications. There's a lot of like, because not every
is
deck is
lowest
just like
power, for the
is
record.
playing on curve. I think this card is really solid, especially in discard decks. It's pretty much a staple in a lot of them, especially with like this one drop that I've been seeing a lot of. The Black Knight, I think is his name, or
Mhm.
I think so.
For the
So
record,
I think this
lowest
card is
power.
really solid.
Lowest power, not lowest cost. Black
Oh
Bolt's the
yeah,
lowest power.
sorry. Lowest power, lowest power.
Does that change your
Um,
evaluation at all?
Okay, so wait. Lowest power with Black Knight is actually
It's not a Black Knight card.
it's not a Black Knight card. Yeah, absolutely. No. I derped. It's the lowest power card.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. I still think it's solid. I think, especially because it can. I don't know if people would play this with Swarm though, but it makes sense. And I like this a lot with Swarm, to be fair. Though obviously, like having your lowest power be 3 is not like you have to build a deck in a certain way. But I mean, I like the card. I think it's a pretty damn decent card.
I'm gonna give you this one because I actually agree with you. Like, there's like these weird mid-rangey Silver Samurai decks that I kind of like a decent amount of the time. But
Yeah.
what I will tell you is, it is a card that, in my opinion, if you don't have it, the deck hella kind of becomes unplayable. Like,
Uh-huh.
you there are a bunch of very interesting things, but the main thing hella runs into is like, if I play against Living Tribunal, I just die. This discards Living Tribunal's Iron Man, and you instantly go from
Oh.
unfavored to favored in those matchups. Like, this
Okay.
is like Hella's main competition. We talked about how like there's only room for one deck that just does points. Well, if you
Yeah.
can interrupt the deck that just does points better than you actually
Mm.
get to be a real deck. And right now, Hella is one of the most played decks in the entire game of Marvel Snap, which is fascinating and weird. And I think a lot of it
Weird.
is because of this guy. Because not only does he do that, he can like target your own blobs and things like that. Like,
Oh yeah,
he
hitting
does cool
blob. Oh, I
stuff,
didn't think
right?
about that. Oh, that's
Like,
neat.
this is
Yeah.
it's a targeted discard for Hella that is
Mm.
also disruptive to like one of the very few decks that goes over the top of you. I think Silver Samurai, like, while he is incredibly niche, like one of the most niche cards we have, he is good. Like, he's not necessarily worth picking up if you're not going to play that stuff. He's not widely applicable, maybe the least widely applicable we have, but he's good when you need him. And he's the only card that does what he does. There is not another card that's going to discard your Blob and your opponent's Iron Man. Nobody else
Okay.
is doing that for you.
I just want to say, like, I'm like, this I look at this card and it's just like looking at Moon Knight, and it's just like it's like the whole meme about your mom telling you, oh, we already have Silver Samurai at home. And that's
Yeah.
just what comes to mind. Like,
Yes.
I really I like it. I haven't played this card yet, so I can't really evaluate it that well. But I legit like the card. I think it's well designed. I think it's tamed as well. Like, it's not like, I think 5 power is right for it as well. Like, I don't know. I like it overall.
Last one. Kang the
Last one.
Conqueror, baby.
You think you're gonna get me with this one?
Do
I
I?
actually know Kang.
Yeah.
Kang is back from my day. It came out and he was great then. I have not seen him once now, which is surprising to me because specifically when I run into Thanos decks, and I up until like this recording, I didn't quite understand why it came, but now I have a theory. Maybe the Blob has something to do with it, or I don't know. Like, this, because this card hasn't changed, right?
No.
But I liked Kang and Thanos. I personally liked Kang and Thanos. I felt like I was one of those people. I was one of the people who just said it from the beginning that Kang was the most overrated card in Marvel Snap ever upon release. Like, people thought he was gonna break the game and gonna be completely unfair. And in my opinion, he only truly thrived in Thanos decks. Other decks, it was kind of copium at the time, but in Thanos decks, because Thanos is able to cycle and draw so much through the deck, because Thanos decks don't really run out of gas. Like, they actually struggle sometimes with the hand size limit, like you mentioned, like bounce decks. But for different reasons, because of all the cycling they have, they can afford to run cards that don't really give you points, but give you information. And that's what Kang is. Kang thrives in my opinion, in a Thanos deck because he gives you information. Even though it's not like Daredevil, it is still information that you can use, and you can try to adjust, even if you know your opponent can do something different. So I don't know. Maybe you can explain to me.
Sure.
I don't know why we don't see him in Thanos decks anymore.
Okay.
Outside of that, not really playable,
You
to be
ready for the
honest.
explanation?
Give it to me.
Yeah, he sucked then. We were just all wrong.
Oh,
Yeah. Like, you were right the
Okay.
first time when you were like, this is the most overrated card ever. Knocked it out of
Yeah.
the park, 100%. I was wrong. Source, I took Kang to a tournament. That I was eating the copium on Kang. No, terrible card. Ass. Like, yes, Thanos can more afford to play him. That doesn't make him good, though. It just means that you can afford to play him more than a deck that, like, can't afford to play him at all. Like, this
And why
is...
why would you say, like, do you think that the information that he provides just because do you believe that because the opponent can change their line of
Not
play?
necessarily because they can change, but because it's not actual information. The times like Kang is useful and has been useful in the metagame in like basically two scenarios, and both of them involve Galactus, right? When you
Mm,
are looking to fish for a specific card often on the final turns of the game. Like when you need to know when you lose to one thing specifically on the final turns of the game and you need to see if they have it. That's when Kang is good. Other than that, and that situation does not come up enough currently for him to ever be playable. Other than that, it's not that he's, 5-0, worthless, you can play a card. What it is that he disappears from your hand. You
he's
discard a
negative
card.
card advantage.
You discard a
Negative
card.
card advantage.
That's the
Yeah,
issue.
it's a -1 play.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, like,
Um,
he's not good enough. Like, Thanos has played Daredevil before, you know? Like, Daredevil's made the cut in Thanos. Kang doesn't, because it can't be used the same
I
way.
mean, I still think Daredevil is a phenomenal card. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's changed. Like, okay,
No,
good.
Daredevil's still a good card. And,
Yeah,
like, when you compare the two, it's,
yeah, no, because from day one I was like, and I've never felt so alienated in a Marvel Snap stream before,
mm,
because I actually like, I remember that day very clear. I got a lot of, like, I got dissed a lot by chat, calling me like bad and stuff for saying Kang is like, I've never seen a card that was more hyped ever in
yeah.
Marvel Snap. Like, people were really, really crazy. Like, the people were either terrified or super excited about it. And I was just like, and I remember like testing the card, and I just felt like this is just doesn't feel good. Like,
Well,
I'd
once
rather
we
have
realized
Daredevil.
he didn't draw the card, it was like,
Yeah,
oh, this guy's not good at all. But like in a world where this guy cycles, isn't he just like the greatest card of all time?
absolutely.
Like, like so,
But
like
it,
with
but
once he
that's
came out, it was
it's just.
like,
I mean, well, it's not actually free. I would
no,
argue that even then, you are sacrificing one slot.
you are sacrificing a slot,
Um,
but it's like cycling.
for
It's
for for a deck building. Obviously, it's cycling.
yeah,
But some, I would argue, some decks, especially when it comes to like tech options, like they do require certain slots. Like,
yeah,
sometimes slots are very tight in Marvel Snap, right? So
definitely.
even then, I don't think it would be the greatest card ever, but it would be really good
I think it
for
would be
sure.
like what old America Chavez was, where it was just like you put this
Makes
card in the
sense.
deck, and
Yeah.
it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
playing an 11 card
That
deck now.
that change shocked me, by the way. Like, I was like, whoa, whoa, what is she doing
Yeah.
all the way down here?
I'll
I
tell you,
was
I'll
like,
tell you,
wow.
I'll tell you why that change makes sense, right? Second
Uh-huh.
Dinner created a game where there were 12 card slots and she made it 11. And you know what that does?
Mm.
It means you can't sell a 12th card. That's why that change makes sense to me. It's
You,
like
you can't sell a what?
you can't sell the 12th card in the deck if it's just going to be America Chavez every time. You
Okay.
can't do that. It makes
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
I
I can
I
align with
buy it.
that
I buy it.
reasoning.
I buy it.
Well,
Like
I definitely buy it too.
I think that makes sense to me. And that's also why
But
Kang can't
I'm not.
ever
I'm
be
gonna.
good.
I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna banter more about it, because I am reformed. I am respectful now.
All
So
right,
I would
reformed.
agree.
Reformed Mogwai. Where can
Reformed.
people find
Yeah.
you? I'm sure they know, but where can people find you?
Well, I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's called Mega Mogwai, and I also have a Twitch channel. It's Mega Mogwai with a 0 instead of an O, because I had the original and then I forgot the password, and I made a new one.
Is that why?
So
Sick.
yes, literally. Yes, I am a boomer with technology. Even though my family believes I'm not, like, I am actually.
That's
So
so
yeah, I
sick. I'm
forgot the
leaving that
password,
in.
and I just,
Yeah, that
yeah.
this is how the video is going to end on this conversation. I want you to know that it's going to end right
All
now.
right.